Rapper and marijuana entrepreneur Snoop Dogg has invested in a Canadian company. Find out who's collecting $500,000 after this. The marijuana business is in the midst of massive change. Not that long ago, the neighborhood pot dealer didn't have an office or proper accounting services. Now, with the advent of legalization and new regulations, the business is getting professionalized. And that's presented big opportunities to a number of entrepreneurs. Trellis is a Toronto-based company that just received a big investment from a high-profile investor. Pranav Sood is founder and CEO of Trellis. So, Pranav, first of all, just tell us what your company does.
Sure. So Trellis is a seed-to-sale software platform. We help operators in the cannabis industry manage their inventory all the way from seed planting to harvest to extraction of oils and then ultimately to sale, whether it's wholesale or the end patient. So it's a very robust inventory tracking system throughout the entire cannabis value chain.
So tell us about your high-profile new investor.
Yeah, sure. So Casa Verde Capital led our seed round of $2 million. A founding member of Casa Verde Capital is Snoop Dogg. So a very high-profile name and obviously very involved in the cannabis industry. So it's been very exciting for us to have him on the team and definitely gives us a higher profile for our brand.
How did you make that connection with Snoop Dogg?
Yeah, it was a triangulation of events. I originally reached out to Casa Verde Capital directly. I also went through an accelerator program in Oakland called Gateway, which is an accelerator program focused on the cannabis industry. So going through that program, they also put in a word with Casa Verde Capital. And after they heard our name a couple times, we ultimately got a meeting together at the MJ Biz conference in Las Vegas. It's an annual conference, one of the largest ones in the industry. So we met a year ago, and yeah, from there it was kind of history.
So now what are you going to do with that investment money?
Yeah, we're in growth mode at this point. You know, the cannabis industry is growing significantly. A lot of markets are opening up in 2018 with new regulations coming in and being implemented. So for us, we're getting a lot more demand for our software, and there's a lot more functionality that we want to continue to develop for the industry. So we're definitely hiring. Our dev team is based in Toronto, so we're hiring developers in Toronto. And then in Oakland is our sales and business development office, and we're hiring customer success managers as well. So we're just gearing up for that increased demand that we're already seeing.
So now we're reaching you today. You're in Silicon Valley. What's the purpose of that trip?
Yeah, I mean, for us, obviously we have our office down here for sales and business development. I'm basically back and forth between our Toronto and our Oakland office, but moving out here to Silicon Valley, there were a number of reasons why we did so. Customers is definitely a big one. So the California market is an extremely large cannabis market compared to a lot of others. And so for us, it was if we can win in California with our software platform, we can win anywhere. So we definitely wanted to be in this market and to help develop our product here. Second was obviously capital, and Casa Verde Capital is based out of LA, so it was very strategic for us to come out here. What we found was capital is fairly scarce, or it was at least when we were raising in Canada. But here in Silicon Valley, we're a tech company. We're also in the cannabis space, so it really helped us find the right funders. And then, yeah, finally, it was really the know-how, because what we've found out in Canada is the regulations in Canada are very strict and constrained, so it limits what operators are able to do in the industry. There's a lot of workflows and techniques that folks just don't do in Canada because it's not regulatory compliant.
What do you mean? What sort of workflows are you talking about?
For sure. For example, extraction. It's a huge market, a huge segment.
What does that mean,
that's
extraction?
The process of...
Sorry, I'm not... Oh, you're going on to tell me. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. So yeah, extraction is basically the process of extracting the active ingredients from cannabis, which primarily is THC or CBD, into various forms, including oils, and that can then be used for edibles or to fill into cartridges for vaporizers. So that whole area of the industry is very well developed here in California, but very premature in Canada. Other things are just based on natural limitations, like the environment. So in California, there's a lot of outdoor grows from a cultivation standpoint. There's a lot of greenhouse, and then there's also indoor. Whereas in Canada, just based on the climate, it tends to be more indoor, more greenhouse, as opposed to outdoor. So there's just various, techniques and operations that we got exposed to here in California that we never would in Canada.
Okay, and you're saying your software helps these companies comply with regulations, is that right?
Correct, yeah. So almost every regulation that we've come across in the various states that we operate in, as well as in Canada, there's a big component around track and trace. There's many reasons for that. Number one is definitely public safety. So if there's ever a recall scenario, all these operators need to have some system in place to be able to track back those batches. And then, yep, recalls are a real thing in the cannabis industry. And then the other aspect is obviously tax revenue and keeping track of sales and those types of things to report into the government.
Okay, well, thank you so much for being with us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Pranav Sood is the founder and CEO of Trellis.